The Pokémon universe is far stranger, darker, and more interconnected than it first appears. And when you look closely at the regions, their histories, and the implications of Pokédex entries, an entirely different world emerges. Across every region, human civilization exists alongside creatures with godlike powers, and yet society continues as if this is normal, which already suggests that humanity in this universe has adapted to constant existential danger. In Kanto, for example, the presence of Mewtwo implies that humans not only understand genetic manipulation, but are willing to create artificial gods. And the fact that this experiment happened decades ago shows how advanced and morally ambiguous Pokémon science truly is. The abandoned Cinnabar Mansion is not just a spooky location, but evidence of catastrophic scientific failure that the world quietly swept under the rug. Johto reveals that Pokémon mythology is not metaphorical, but literal history. Ho-Oh resurrected 3 dead Pokémon and turned them into legendary beasts, meaning death is reversible under certain cosmic conditions. This implies that the afterlife exists and can be overridden by powerful beings. The Burned Tower stands as proof that legendary Pokémon directly intervene in the physical world, causing disasters that reshape entire cities. Despite this, Johto's people continue to worship these beings rather than fear them, suggesting a cultural acceptance of divine destruction. Hoenn introduces the idea that the planet itself is fragile and can be rewritten by Pokémon. Groudon and Kyogre are not just powerful monsters, but embodiments of land and sea expansion, meaning that continental drift and ocean formation may be controlled by living creatures. The existence of Rayquaza as a mediator implies that natural balance is enforced by a single entity, and without it, the world would collapse. This makes the Pokémon world less like a planet governed by physics and more like a system governed by sentient forces. Sinnoh goes even further by confirming that time, space, and antimatter are controlled by Pokémon. Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina are not legends, but active beings that can be summoned, battled, and captured. This means a 10-year-old child can theoretically imprison the god of time in a small ball. The implications are horrifying, as it suggests that reality itself can be destabilized by hobbyist trainers. The Sinnoh myths also imply that Arceus created the universe, making Pokémon not just animals, but the foundation of existence itself. Unova challenges the morality of Pokémon training more directly than any other region. Team Plasma's argument that Pokémon are enslaved is never truly disproven, only overpowered. The fact that Pokémon willingly fight alongside humans does not negate the reality that they are captured, stored digitally, and commanded. Unova also reveals that ancient civilizations had far more advanced technology than modern ones, as seen in the Relic Castle and the original dragon that split into Reshiram and Zekrom. Kalos introduces the ultimate weapon, a machine powered by Pokémon life force that caused mass extinction thousands of years ago. This confirms that Pokémon can be used as batteries for weapons of genocide. Aziz's immortality proves that eternal life exists, but at the cost of endless suffering. The fact that this weapon was hidden rather than destroyed suggests that the world fears repeating history, but has not truly learned from it. Alola breaks traditional Pokémon rules by showing that regions are not bound to a single reality. Ultra Beasts come from other dimensions, implying a multiverse filled with hostile ecosystems. The Ultra Wormholes prove that reality is thin and easily torn open, and the casual way Alola handles these events suggests that interdimensional travel is more common than acknowledged. Necrozma's hunger for light implies that entire universes can be consumed by parasitic entities. Galar reveals that Pokémon are used as industrial power sources on a national scale. The Darkest Day was not just a legend, but a recurring energy crisis caused by Eternatus. Chairman Rose's willingness to trigger a disaster to prevent a future shortage highlights how dependent human civilization is on Pokémon energy. Dynamaxing also implies that Pokémon can temporarily break the laws of physics when exposed to certain radiation. Paldea introduces the idea that time travel may already be happening without anyone fully understanding it. Paradox Pokémon suggest that ancient and future versions of species coexist, possibly destabilizing the timeline. The Terastyle phenomenon shows that Pokémon types are not fixed but mutable, meaning elemental identities are flexible traits rather than biological constants. This raises questions about whether Pokémon types are social constructs enforced by human classification. Across all regions, Pokédex entries reveal that children are exposed to extreme danger regularly. Ghost-type Pokémon kidnap children, drain life force, and mimic human voices to lure victims. Yet society treats this as trivia. Drifloon casually abducts children, Hypno kidnaps people, and Yamask carries human souls, implying that death and possession are everyday occurrences. The normalization of these facts suggests a world desensitized to horror. The economy of the Pokémon world is equally strange. Money is earned exclusively through battling, implying that combat is the primary economic driver. There are no visible taxes, yet infrastructure is immaculate. Pokémon centers provide free healthcare, suggesting either a utopian system funded by unseen forces or a government that prioritizes trainers above all else. This also implies that non-trainers may exist in poverty we never see. Human population density is extremely low compared to available land, suggesting past mass extinction events. Cities are small, routes are vast, and wilderness dominates the planet. This could be the result of legendary Pokémon disasters, wars like Kalos' ancient conflict, or repeated reality resets caused by time and space manipulation. The Pokémon world may be recovering from multiple apocalypses. Technology in the Pokémon universe fluctuates wildly. Humans have teleportation, matter compression, and instant healing, yet still use simple houses and basic clothing. This suggests that technological advancement is selectively applied, possibly limited by tradition or fear of repeating past disasters. The existence of the PC system means living beings are converted into data, raising ethical questions never addressed. Legendary Pokémon often represent human emotions or concepts such as truth, ideals, emotion, knowledge, and willpower. This implies that abstract ideas are tangible forces in this universe. If emotions have physical embodiments, then human psychology directly shapes reality. This could explain why regions reflect cultural themes so strongly. Despite the dangers, Pokémon show immense loyalty and empathy. Many Pokédex entries describe Pokémon protecting humans at great personal cost. This suggests a symbiotic relationship rather than pure domination. However, the imbalance of power remains, as humans ultimately control captured technology. The existence of regional variants proves that Pokémon evolution is heavily influenced by environment and culture. This mirrors real-world speciation, but happens at an accelerated pace. It implies that Pokémon genomes are extremely adaptable, possibly engineered or guided by some higher force. Mythical Pokémon like Celebi, Jirachi, and Victini confirm that wishes time travel, and guaranteed victory are real phenomena. If such powers exist, it raises the question of why the world is not constantly rewritten. The answer may be that these Pokémon limit themselves or are hidden to prevent chaos. Trainer journeys starting at age 10 suggest that childhood in this world is radically different. Children are trusted with creatures capable of leveling cities. This implies that societal values prioritize independence and resilience over safety. It also suggests that Pokémon may subconsciously restrain themselves around humans. Villain teams often reflect real human fears such as climate change, overpopulation, energy shortages, and ideological extremism. This makes the Pokémon world a distorted mirror of our own, where problems are externalized into legendary beings rather than systemic human flaws. Ultimately, the Pokémon universe is a world where gods walk among mortals, children hold the fate of reality, and society continues forward with unsettling calm. Every region is built on ancient trauma, suppressed disasters, and silent compromises between humans and monsters. The bright colors and cheerful music hide a setting that is, at its core, one of the most quietly terrifying fictional worlds ever created.
There is a theory that suggests Pokémon battles are not training at all. They are a form of psychological conditioning, not just for Pokémon, but for humans. The cheerful framing of battles, gyms, and leagues hides a deeper function, teaching both species to normalize conflict, obedience, and power imbalance from an early age. This theory begins with a simple question: why are children sent out alone at such a young age? In the Pokémon world, 10-year-olds leave home, face danger, and are praised for defeating others in combat. Adults encourage this without hesitation. Loss is brushed off, injury is temporary, fear is framed as excitement. Under this theory, the journey isn't about adventure, it's about acclimation. Pokémon battles are ritualized violence with strict rules. Pokémon take damage but rarely die. Winners are rewarded, losers are expected to accept defeat quietly. Status conditions wear off. Everything resets. This creates a controlled environment where domination is normalized, but consequences are removed. Over time, both trainers and Pokémon learn the same lesson. Power struggles are natural, authority is earned through strength, and resistance is temporary. Pokémon obedience becomes especially unsettling through this lens. Pokémon almost always follow commands instantly, even when ordered into danger. Disobedience is treated as a flaw to be corrected through training or bonding. Badges don't just unlock progression, they enforce compliance. Pokémon refuse to obey trainers without sufficient badges, not because they are incapable, but because the system demands proof of authority before submission is allowed. The theory suggests this structure was designed deliberately. Long ago, humans may have lost control over Pokémon or feared them. Rather than eliminate Pokémon, society reshaped interaction into sport. Gyms became controlled testing grounds. Leagues became institutions of legitimacy. The strongest trainers rose to the top not just as champions, but as symbols of acceptable dominance. Even Pokémon centers play a role. Injuries vanish instantly. Trauma leaves no visible scars. This removes fear from combat, encouraging repetition. When pain has no lasting cost, conflict becomes addictive. Trainers chase battles not for survival, but validation. Pokémon learn that suffering is meaningless if it pleases their trainer. This conditioning may explain why Pokémon rarely attack humans unprovoked. Not because they are harmless, but because restraint has been trained into them across generations. Wild Pokémon are labeled aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous, reinforcing the idea that only trained, controlled Pokémon are acceptable. Freedom becomes associated with chaos. capture becomes associated with safety. Legendary Pokémon disrupt this system, which is why they are feared. They resist control. They do not obey easily. They challenge authority structures and destabilize regions simply by existing. When a legendary awakens, society reacts not with curiosity, but with urgency. It's a reminder of power that cannot be easily conditioned. This theory also reframes the bond between trainer and Pokémon. Affection exists, but so does dependency. Pokémon grow stronger through praise, care, and validation. Their sense of self becomes tied to performance. When they evolve, it's celebrated as success. When they fail, it's framed as something to fix. Over time, identity and utility blur together. The creepiest implication is that no one questions this system because it works. Society is peaceful, conflict is managed, power is regulated. Pokémon appear happy. Trainers feel fulfilled. But that doesn't mean it's ethical. It means it's effective. If this theory is true, then the Pokémon journey is not about becoming a hero. It's about becoming comfortable with authority, hierarchy, and controlled violence, all wrapped in bright colors and friendly creatures. And perhaps the most unsettling part is that the system doesn't need to force anyone to participate. Everyone enters willingly. There is a theory whispered among longtime fans that reframes the entire Pokémon world into something far more disturbing than it appears. It suggests that Pokémon are not simply creatures living alongside humans, but that many of them are what remains after humans die. Not as ghosts in every case, but as something transformed, recycled, or repurposed by the world itself. According to this theory, death in the Pokémon universe is not an end, but a conversion. This idea begins quietly, with Pokédex entries that are far too specific to be harmless. Ghost-type Pokémon repeatedly reference human spirits. Yamask carries a mask that was once its human face, and sometimes weeps when it remembers its past life. Phantom is said to be born from children who died lost in forests. Drifloon lures children away, and Banette is created from discarded objects, fueled by resentment. These are not vague myths, they are direct statements. The theory asks, if these are the exceptions we are told about, how many others exist that we are not? From here, the theory widens. Pokémon evolution begins to look less like biology and more like transition. Many Pokémon change form through trauma, exposure, or emotional intensity rather than age. Evolution triggered by friendship, grief, nighttime, or specific locations feels symbolic rather than natural. What if evolution is not growth, but adaptation after death? The soul reshaping itself to survive in a world it no longer belongs to. This could explain why Pokémon seem endlessly resilient compared to humans. They faint instead of dying. They recover instantly at Pokémon centers. They can survive conditions that would kill a human outright. If Pokémon are no longer bound by human limitations, then battle becomes less violent and more ritualistic, a leftover instinct in a world where death already happened once. The theory grows darker when considering how Pokémon and humans interact. Pokémon obey humans instinctively. They seek approval, form bonds quickly, and remain loyal even when harmed. This loyalty could be explained as companionship, or as something more tragic, a subconscious memory of being human once, a lingering desire to belong to human society again, even in a diminished form. Pokeballs themselves become unsettling under this lens. They don't force Pokemon inside. Pokemon willingly enter them, almost eagerly, as if returning to a contained, safe space feels familiar, like a coffin, or a womb, or a memory of rest. This could explain why Pokemon resist capture only when they distrust the trainer, not because they fear containment, but because they fear who they will be bound to. Legendary Pokemon complicate the theory further. What if they are not gods, but accumulations of countless souls? Spirit Tomb is literally made of 108 spirits bound together. Giratina rules a world of distortion and exile. Yveltal absorbs life energy indiscriminately. These beings don't feel like creators. They feel like consequences, manifestations of mass death, catastrophe, or imbalance that grew too large to remain unseen. The Pokémon Tower in Lavender Town becomes central to this idea. It is not simply a graveyard, it is a transition site. Spirits appear restless there. A Marowak refuses to pass on until acknowledged. Silence and respect calm the dead. The tower doesn't mourn Pokémon, it processes them. Suggesting death is common enough to require infrastructure. Even Arceus, often described as the creator, may fit this theory in a chilling way. Rather than creating life, Arceus may govern rebirth, ensuring souls are recycled into Pokémon forms to prevent true extinction. This would make the Pokémon world not a paradise, but a closed system, a reality where nothing ever truly escapes. Life loops endlessly, reshaped again and again. If this theory is true, then trainers are not adventurers, they are caretakers of the dead, traveling alongside transformed souls who no longer remember their past lives, but still feel echoes of them. Friendship becomes sacred, abuse becomes unforgivable, and the bond between trainer and Pokémon becomes something far heavier than a game mechanic. It becomes trust between the living and the already lost. Perhaps that is why Pokémon never speak. Not because they can't, but because they've already said everything they needed to say once before. And now all that remains is loyalty, instinct, and the quiet hope that this new form of existence is gentler than the last one they left behind. There is a theory that suggests the Pokémon world is not natural at all, that it is an artificial reality built to contain something far more dangerous. According to this idea, the cheerful landscapes, friendly creatures, and structured rules of battles exist not for adventure, but for control. The Pokémon world is not a wild ecosystem. It is a stabilized enclosure. This theory begins with one unsettling observation. The Pokémon world operates on rules that feel intentionally constrained. Battles rarely result in death. Pokémon faint instead of dying. Damage is reversible. Cities exist without visible governments or militaries. Technology is highly advanced, yet selectively limited. It's as if the world has been engineered to prevent escalation, not to stop conflict, but to keep it manageable. Legendary Pokémon play a central role in this theory. They are often described as guardians, keepers, or regulators. Zygarde monitors ecosystems. Rayquaza prevents planetary collapse. Dialga and Palkia maintain time and space. These are not rulers, they are maintenance systems. Their awakenings are treated as emergencies, like containment failures. When legendaries appear, it's never normal. It's a breach. This theory proposes that long ago reality broke. Whether through ancient war, cosmic disaster, or uncontrolled evolution, something in the universe became unstable. Rather than erase existence entirely, a controlled reality was created, one with limits, rules, and predictable outcomes. Pokémon are the stabilized life forms of this system, designed to channel violence into ritualized battles instead of uncontrolled destruction. Under this lens, Pokémon battles resemble simulations more than combat. Moves follow strict rules. Type matchups are mathematically consistent. Even status effects are regulated. Pokémon do not attack humans directly unless provoked, and even then rarely cause permanent harm. This suggests behavioral constraints baked into biology, not evolution, but programming. Ultra Beasts threaten this system because they are not adapted to it. They do not follow normal rules. Their biology is exaggerated, unstable, and often parasitic. Necrozma consumes light itself. Eternatus radiates uncontrollable energy. These beings feel like remnants of the pre-contained universe, things that never fully adapted to the new reality. That is why they feel wrong. Humans in this theory are not creators, but caretakers. Their role is to guide Pokémon, maintain balance, and reinforce the system through tradition and structure. Gyms, leagues, trials, and rankings are not sports. They are feedback loops. They ensure power is distributed, monitored, and kept within safe thresholds. Trainers who grow too powerful are immediately challenged, tested, or redirected. Even Pokédexes become unsettling. They catalog everything, measure it, quantify danger. Knowledge is treated as safety. Anything unknown is a risk. This suggests a world obsessed with documentation, not out of curiosity, but fear. Fear of something slipping through the cracks. The creepiest part of this theory is what it implies about freedom. Pokémon seem happy. Humans seem fulfilled. But happiness may be a side effect of stability, not proof of choice. If the world is a containment system, then everyone inside it, Pokémon and human alike, may be living in a carefully curated illusion designed to feel complete. And if that's true, then the most dangerous question isn't what's inside the Pokémon world, but what exists outside it. Because the barriers between dimensions keep weakening. Ultra wormholes open. Paradox Pokémon appear. Legends awaken more frequently. Containment is failing. Perhaps the Pokémon world was never meant to last forever. It was meant to hold reality together, just long enough for something else to be figured out. And until then, everyone inside continues their journeys, battles, friendships, and dreams, unaware that the peace they cherish may be nothing more than the calm inside a cage. There is a theory that suggests Pokémon do not evolve forward, they evolve away. Away from something they were never meant to become. According to this idea, Pokémon evolution is not progress, but degradation. Each evolutionary stage represents a loss of memory, awareness, or original purpose, slowly reshaping intelligent beings into simpler, more controllable forms. This theory begins with a strange inconsistency. Many unevolved Pokémon display high intelligence, emotional awareness, and even moral understanding. Pokémon like Abra can teleport to avoid danger. Ralts senses human emotions and seeks kindness. Riolu can read aura, detecting intentions and feelings. Yet, as many Pokémon evolve, their behavior becomes more aggressive, more instinct-driven, and less emotionally expressive. The theory asks a disturbing question. What if evolution is not growth, but erosion? Consider Alakazam. Its Pokédex entries claim it has an IQ of over 5,000, yet it barely communicates and spends most of its time isolated, lost in thought. Metagross, a supercomputer Pokémon, thinks constantly but expresses no emotion. Garchomp, Tyranitar, and Hydreigon become more violent and destructive with evolution. If evolution represents advancement, why does empathy so often disappear? This theory proposes that Pokémon originally existed as highly intelligent, self-aware beings, perhaps closer to humans or something beyond them. Over time, exposure to battles, environments, and evolutionary triggers caused their consciousness to fracture. Evolution didn't make them stronger. It made them simpler, more physical, less reflective, easier to direct. Evolution stones deepen this unease. Stone-evolved Pokémon often stop learning new moves naturally. Their growth halts abruptly. It's as if the stone forces a premature transformation, locking the Pokémon into a final state before it is ready. Trainers celebrate this as power gain, but under this theory, it represents cognitive sacrifice, immediate strength traded for long-term awareness. Mega evolution and other temporary power-ups feel even more disturbing through this lens. Several Pokédex entries describe Mega Pokémon experiencing pain, rage, or loss of control. Their bodies twist beyond natural limits. If evolution is already a form of degradation, then Mega Evolution becomes forced regression, ripping away remaining restraint to access raw power. The Pokémon becomes stronger, but less itself. This theory also explains why legendary Pokémon rarely evolve. They are often portrayed as ancient, solitary, and emotionally distant, not because they are gods, but because they resisted the evolutionary process. They remained static, unchanged, preserving their original form and purpose. Their isolation may not be arrogance, but necessity. To interact too closely with the modern world would risk the same degradation other Pokémon suffered. Humans play an unsettling role here. Trainers encourage evolution constantly. It's celebrated, expected, rewarded. Pokémon that refuse to evolve are treated as incomplete. Under this theory, humanity unknowingly perpetuates the cycle, mistaking loss for growth. The bond between trainer and Pokémon becomes complicated, built on care, but also on pressure to change. The Pokédex quietly supports this idea in subtle ways. Many evolved Pokémon forget moves they once knew. Baby Pokémon often require incense or special conditions to exist, as if the world itself resists allowing Pokémon to begin life in their most aware forms. It's easier for Pokémon to become less than they were than to start as more. The creepiest implication comes when considering human-Pokémon communication. Pokémon understand human language remarkably well, yet humans cannot understand Pokémon speech. Perhaps Pokémon once spoke freely, and evolution took that from them. What remains are instincts, cries, and gestures, echoes of something more complex that no longer exists. If this theory is true, then the Pokémon world is not about growth, but forgetting. Each generation of Pokémon becomes more specialized, more powerful, but less aware of what they used to be. Trainers are not villains. They are participants in a system so normalized that no one questions it. And maybe that's why Pokémon continue to trust humans. Not because humans are kind, but because Pokémon no longer remember a time when they didn't.